Hello, everybody. Jason here, and I'm here today to discuss something a bit different than my usual content. It's something that's important to me, should be important to you, and what we can do to make some actual good change for video games. You've probably already heard about this, especially since you've seen the video title. So I'll try my best to summarize things as to not repeat the same information you've heard before, and also keep in mind that if I get some information wrong, I apologize and urge people to research into this topic for themselves and then judge for themselves if they want to support it or not. Although, as it stands right now, I don't see why people wouldn't if they're passionate about this stuff like me. I'll begin by reading something which I'll show on screen now so you can kind of get the idea of where this is going to go. In the 90s and early 2000s, players could keep and play games they bought indefinitely, either offline or on a community run servers, even after official support ended. Today, many games require constant online access, and once servers shut down, they become completely unplayable. Stop Killing Games is an initiative aiming to require companies to allow players to play the games they purchased even after official support ends. If you're an EU, Europea, or UK, United Kingdom citizen, sign the petition at www.stopkillinggames.com by July 31st to help protect game preservation. Not in the EU or UK? Spread the word using hashtag StopKillingGames. So, yes, if that wasn't obvious enough, this video is about and is in support of the Stop Killing Games movement that is going on right now as the time of recording this. To try and summarize the movement as best I can, it is an initiative started by Ross Scott, creator of shows like Ross's Gaming Dungeon and, of course, Freeman's Mind, in an attempt to get legislation passed in the EU and UK to ensure that any games published by companies are left in a playable state once they end support for those games. Now, if some of you out there are having trouble like trying to understand what exactly this petition is trying to do, uh, let me put it to you this way. Imagine you buy a car, you pay completely off, you don't owe the dealership or wherever you got it from any money or anything. You bought parts for it, tags, licenses, the works. By normal standards, you own that car, right? Well, according to the company you bought it from, to them, you didn't buy the car. You bought a license to drive the car, not the car itself. And now they're saying they want you to buy the new model they have coming out. But you don't want that because you like the car you bought. It runs well, like it functions just about as much, maybe even better than this new model they're making, and you want to keep using it. Well, unfortunately, the company thinks differently. And at the flip of a switch on their end, your car no longer works. You can't drive it. Like, even though you bought parts for it, even though it's in working condition, because of that little switch flip on their end, you can't drive it, and they force you to buy the new model. Even though you legally bought the car with your hard earned money, the company decided you shouldn't be allowed to drive that car because they believe you don't own it. This petition is trying to help stop practices like this from happening in the gaming industry. Now, I should clarify, as far as I know and I have researched, that this movement isn't asking for developers or even publishers to continually support the games they release long after their expected shelf life or relevancy. No, that is unrealistic and that's a waste of money. What they are asking is for developers and most importantly, publishers to stop practices that make it impossible for their consumers to play their games long after online support for them has ended. I could go into more finer details about it, but like I said, I don't want to repeat or accidentally butcher any of the information, and there are tons of videos of it already that talk about it, some of which I'll link below for you to see. Now, for some of us that live here in the West, you're probably thinking, well, I've seen plenty of petitions before and they never really get anywhere. And While that might be true for us here in the States, in countries like Europe and the United Kingdom, it works a bit differently. I'm by no means an expert on their government, but from what I've researched in relation to this movement, petitions are taken very seriously over in the EU and UK. By their country's laws, if a movement like this gets enough support or reaches a certain level of signatures, then by law, their government will have to consider this a serious issue that threatens consumer rights and must put forth laws or mandates that address this issue directly. Now, you might also be asking, well, even if this works, what about those of us that live outside the EU and UK? Wouldn't something like this only affect them and not us? Not true. There are plenty of examples of consumers making noise, reaching out to their governments or the publishers with issues like this, and it succeeding. But a common example I've seen come up with this movement is the case of Australia versus Valve. To summarize, in 2016, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission successfully sued Valve Software for misleading Australian consumers regarding their rights to refunds for digital games on Steam. They argued that Valve's Steam terms of service at the time misrepresented Australian consumer law, which guarantees refunds for faulty goods, including digital games. And guess what? They actually won that case. And now not only does Steam have to comply with Australian law, but it set a precedent giving us the refund system we have for Steam today that allows us to properly refund our digital games everywhere, including the USA. And they did that back in 2016. Imagine what this movement could do for games everywhere now. If this movement passes over there in a region that has just as much power and sway over this kind of stuff, then naturally it'll set a precedent that other countries and publishers will have to follow. Now, it's hard to talk about this without talking about some of the drama that went on between Stop Killing Games and Pirate Software. I don't want to focus on it too much as to not dilute the message of this video, but it inevitably will come up in conversation due to people researching the topic. So I'm going to summarize this as best I can without getting into the unnecessary drama of it all. But some time ago, Pirate Software, an online streamer and indie studio, made a video going over Stop Killing Games. Uh, Basically, he disagreed with the petition, saying that it was bad and it wasn't good for games. And I'm putting that very nicely just to try and keep this professional. But this, in turn, caused a lot of people who follow him to disregard the petition and almost nearly kill it. But to my understanding, especially looking into this myself and getting more information from other creators on the subject, his video going over it was very misinformed, misleading, intentional or not. And honestly, he just got everything about this initiative straight up wrong. Like, if you go to the links in the description and read it for yourself, you'll very clearly see that he kind of missed the point of it because the initiative very clearly states what it's about and what it's going to do. On top of that, his behavior and attitude towards this movement and its supporters was, at least in my opinion, very unprofessional and just plain rude. On top of how he's handling the discussion and how he's acted towards its supporters or just people who think he might be wrong, it really paints him in a negative light and it makes him look very egotistical and honestly very immature. So, from my point of view, I would highly suggest against listening to whatever he has to say on Stop Killing Games and its supporters, for the time being at least. Uh, Hence why I emphasize researching the movement yourself at the beginning of this and coming to your own conclusions on everything, because quite frankly, that's probably the best way to do it. Even if I am supporting it right now, I would highly urge you researching it, like just research it yourself. It's all I'm saying. So You would think that would spell the end, right? Popular online creator talks negatively about a petition, it gets disregarded, and the movement goes nowhere. But thankfully for us, in a shocking turn of events, Charlie, otherwise known as Moist Critical on YouTube and practically everywhere, went over the whole ordeal, set the record straight, and informed people that Stop Killing Games is ultimately a good thing and that they should go support it. And amazingly, the petition went from barely getting any support at all to now many people and creators speaking out about it and urging everyone to go share it and sign it. And it's gaining more signatures now than ever. At the time of recording this, it currently is sitting at 885,949 out of the million signatures it needs. And it's gaining more as it goes on. So, here we are now. As of this recording, the petition is still accepting signatures from people who live in the UK and EU. It has until the end of July. Yes, you heard me right. The end of this month, at the time of recording, to get over 1 million signatures before it can be pushed forward for legislation in the EU and UK governments. So please, if you love video games like me and are tired of companies and publisher practices that seem to screw over consumers more times than not, support this petition. If you're seeing this and you live in the EU, UK, or any of the regions this petition supports, I urge you, sign it and share it with your friends, family, workers, or just anyone you know. If you're like me and you live in the West, the best thing you can do for now is to share and show your support for this initiative. I've already shared and talked about it on my social media, and I urge you to do the same. Or, hey, if you know someone or have a friend, family member, just anyone that you know that lives in the EU or UK, share this with them and urge them to sign it. Video games can be wonderful. They can give us once in a lifetime experiences and give us something that inspires us to do amazing things. And I, for one, am tired of corporations and people in the industry hurting both consumers and developers with shady business decisions and questionable legal practices. To me, if you bought something legally with your hard earned money, by law, you should have the right to own and use said purchased item, no matter what. And companies should be mandated to give us, their consumers, ways to continue to support their products ourselves. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's flaws in this movement. Nothing's perfect, and will more than likely need more work and rules if this legislation gets passed. But in my opinion, having something that we can work on, even if it's not perfect, is better than doing nothing. I would rather we try to get this passed, fail, and at least make our voices heard on this issue than do nothing and later act like we could have done something more. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say and share on this matter. If you made it to this far in the video, thank you very much for watching and listening to this. I hope this reaches some people and hopefully it clears up some of the confusion they might have about this issue and hopefully steers them down the right path to learning more about this movement and figuring it out for themselves. If you want to support this movement, go to the links in the description below or visit the website at www.stopkillinggames.com. If you have issues with the movement, like if you think some of it isn't clear, maybe it could be hurtful or something, I strongly urge people to reach out to the people in charge of this and let them know your issues with it so the people in charge can get a better understanding and, should this legislation get passed, further work on and improve this movement for everyone. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day. And please, stop killing games.